Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of e-commerce marketing chats with myself and Jimmy. Jimmy, how's it going, mate?
Good. Me and Charles were just actually in a deep kind of discussion. It's like, no, we've got to hit record because this stuff is useful for people to know. And yeah, it's what we're about here, just chatting about what's going on currently and then sharing it to you guys. And I was just chatting to Charles about the importance of trusting referral partners that you could potentially be sending work or asking to do something for your business, because there was a situation where someone I know got in someone to do some website changes on one of their clients, and that person that they brought on kind of messed it up. There was something that went wrong there, and then the relationship with the client that they had and been working with for a very long time kind of soured, and it just kind of it highlighted to me again the importance of kind of trusting the people that you're working with. And I'm super reluctant on referrals unless I've worked with someone before and I trust that they're going to do a good job. I'm super reluctant to refer out, mainly because if you're referring out, you want it to be it's a reflection on you. So if you're not 100% kind of, yeah, I know this person will do a good job for this client, then don't tell someone that you know someone. Like, you might know someone, but you've never worked with them, you don't know the quality of their work. Yeah, so keep that in mind. And I was kind of just saying to Charles, because he's building out a directory of, people that he works with, and that he trusts. I'm like, make sure, that trust quality is always like the highest of importance. Like, just don't throw anyone in there. So how is that directory going, Charles? It looks like it's building out slowly with obviously people that you've worked with before and trust. So how's that going?
Yeah, good. We're up to well, I've got six in there, one of which obviously is including yourself, Jimmy. So, and actually another four that I've added to the list. So we should hopefully be ready to go live this week. But I think I totally agree. Like, I was very, I only want to put on that list people that I've either directly worked with or I know for sure deliver good quality work.
Another way you could almost do it too is you could tier it, like your premium recommendations, and then maybe just people that you've interviewed or you've had like a communication with but not worked with. You can maybe put them on like a secondary tier, like appeared in like the podcast or appeared in an interview or something. So you don't have to directly say, like, I highly recommend this person. I've worked with them before, but you could angle it like, these are the people we've had discussions with. Check the show notes and do your own research. So it gives people at least a starting point and, a little bit of insight to your network too, without you having to have worked extensively, I guess, with everyone as well.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I mean, I even thought about adding in like I guess like an uptick where people could vote, but then you never know. That could kind of be manipulated, can't it? And
Yeah.
people can be so.
I'll jump on Fiverr and get 40,000 people to click my
Yeah,
upvotes. Oh, what? Jimmy's got 40,000 votes. This next person's only got two. Like, he must be the
yeah,
jam. So, no, I know
exactly.
what you mean. All those review systems and all those kind of voting systems can always be manipulated, unfortunately. But yeah,
Yeah,
I think on the topic of referrals, I think it's important for e-commerce businesses too, because at some point the business owner is going to work with someone on, if they get to a certain point, there's going to be some revenue point where they've got too much on their plate and they're going to need someone else to do a portion of the marketing. They're not going to be able to be like a one-man band forever if that's how they're starting. And they've got a couple of options. They can hire employees internally, or they can, work with external service providers. And this is where it starts. Business owner is looking for referrals. If they have a relationship with anyone in that industry, they'll be like, hey, do you know anyone for this? Do you know anyone for that? And this is where it's on the person that they're asking to make sure that they're kind of giving them a real quality kind of recommendation, and not just someone that they know, but someone that they've actually worked with before and they've got the results that this particular person is looking for. Because one, it strengthens the relationship. If you refer someone that's really good and they do a really good job for that client, it actually strengthens kind of the trust and the relationship with you and that client as well, or you and that potential business. Yeah, I take referrals extremely seriously. Yeah, and it goes the same way. If someone refers a client to me, like if they're referring me work, like I want them to, I want to be front of mind for them all the time, especially if they work with the kind of caliber of clients that I like working with. So yeah, if I get referred to someone, like, I want to do an amazing job for not only that person, but for the client as well. So yeah,
Yeah, totally agree.
there's a few ways to look at it, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I totally agree on that. I remember last year I got a referred a client, and I particularly do a good job, and it was nice to when I spoke to that strategic partner, he mentioned the fact that the client was happy with the work that I produced, which again it strengthened that relationship and partnership, and there's been some opportunities that have arisen from that. I think the problem also with like the typical standard business directories out there is most of them are just the directories are there to make money themselves. So they're reaching out and saying, "Oh, do you want to be featured on our directory? It's going to cost you this amount." They're not doing any vetting in terms of the quality of the agency or freelancer that they have showcased on their platform. So that's something to bear in mind if you are just doing research and trying to find someone without any reference. Just because they've been recommended on a website, it doesn't necessarily mean they're any good. You need to, yeah. So that's hence why I wanted to kind of build out this directory of specialists that I personally know versus just any random people.
Actually, on the topic of people that we know, in the show notes last week, we mentioned kind of an AI software that someone that Charles and I both know has set up. And he sent me through an example this week of how it worked, and I was mind blown. I'm not sure if he sent it through to
He
you as
did,
well,
yeah.
Charles.
I spoke to him in the week, yeah, yeah, so good.
So I'll be chatting to him tomorrow to kind of explore how e-commerce sites can use this technology, because it will dramatically reduce customer service. It will dramatically reduce the amount of emails you have to send. It will dramatically reduce questions that you have to answer. From just the tests that I've seen, the technology's great. I probably changed the voiceover. It's very bogan Australian, but I'm sure they can tailor all that. But I'll have I'll line up a chat with Paul tomorrow, and maybe we can just get him on for a sneak peek on the show maybe next week if he's available, and we can have a chat about how that might be implemented and get him to show us some examples so other people can see it too. I think it'll make a really good short clip because I know you clip up the episodes, Charles. So like a short clip of that, I think would go gangbusters.
Yeah, yeah. No, I spoke to him in the week, just this week, and what's today? Yeah, yesterday actually. I spoke to him, and yeah, he's keen to come on at some point. I think he's still trying to he wants to get continue to test it, working with a select few clients
Bugger
at the
that.
moment.
We'll get him on the
Yeah.
early stage. I don't want this refined, super polished interview.
Well, there you go.
Hey,
Well, you'll have
I
to
want to hear
persuade
about
him.
I want to hear about the crux and how it's
Yeah.
working and where it's at now. So
There you go. Well, yeah.
we want the early tip, not after everything's polished and fully done.
Yeah, yeah. Well, maybe you can persuade him to come on. So, but yeah, he said he's more than happy to come on at some point. Like I said, I was amazed at the quality of what can be done now.
It's one of these things too with AI. Like everyone kind of knows that they should be experimenting with it or implementing it somehow. The problem is no one knows where to start in the business sense. So I get that a lot. Like, where do you start with AI? So if we can bring in someone that can just provide a real world example of like, hey, this is how you can use this is how it's going to save you time, and these are the results you can get. I think that it doesn't get any more straightforward than that in how you can kind of I guess, implement this technology into your business. So I think it would be a great example, and we've probably spoken about AI a lot, especially over the last 2 weeks. So having some real world examples in play for that will be great. And I start the AI agents course with Mike Rhodes tomorrow, actually. So I probably
Nice.
have a little bit more insight into that kind of stuff as well. But yeah, I think it's going to be a big thing that's coming. That's going to impact all spaces, not just the e-commerce space. But if we can give the people listening kind of a foot up and show them the latest technology that's available out there for them, I think, yeah, I mean, it'll be good listening because I'm kind of listening to that stuff elsewhere too. It's like I want to know what's working and what I can use and how I can use it, how I can save time.
Yeah, I've been actually building out. That's how I built out this e-commerce marketing directory. I've been using AI solely to build this directory out. And bear in mind, I'm someone that with zero coding experience. And I've been, yeah, very impressed with what you can do with it. So, yeah, it's just about trying these tools out and just see it, like looking at what you want to build, or, maybe there's a landing page that you're looking at potentially outsourcing it. Well, maybe try figuring out if you can use AI to do it yourself, and and start from there and just try and play around with some of these tools. It's really trial and error. You're not going to be you're gonna yeah, you're not going to be incredible from day one.
Yeah.
You're going to you're going to have to troubleshoot sometimes.
It's definitely at the point now, AI, that you wouldn't go to Google and research your question. Like you're going to AI to teach you the answer. I found that's kind of been the biggest shift. And even like my non-techie friends, I'm talking someone who owns a landscaping business. He's like, thanks for introducing this to me, Jimmy. It's been like amazing. It's helped me so much because I don't know how to do any of this stuff, but I just ask it and it literally tells me. But he said the biggest pattern change for him, like he automatically opens Google to search things. And he's like, I've been trying to retrain my brain to like not go to Google and to go to the AI because one, it saves me time asking quality questions and getting really good responses rather than going to Google to sift through a whole lot of websites and like trying to piece together the answer where the AI just kind of does all that for you and gives you high quality answers. And if you know it's wrong, you can correct it. You'd be like, oh, this didn't work. And it usually says, oh, yeah, that's right. You can't do this on this, this, and this. This is actually how you do it. So AI isn't perfect 100% of the time, but it's pretty close. Like it's a great resource. And if you are, I would almost say that to people now, if you're going to YouTube, I mean, if you're going to Google now to research something, to figure out how to do something, I'd be trying to swap that mind, make that mental shift and starting at AI and not at Google.
Yeah, that's exactly what I think this year particularly. Last year I was using it a little bit, and now speaking to some of my other kind of business friends, I'm noticing many of them starting to make that shift and realizing the importance of learning on how to use these tools and softwares.
For another example, like I used it this week. So I was actually looking for a resource on different customer segments that I could use on Klaviyo. I was like, oh, I wonder if anyone's selling like a resource list that, I can just download and, or even pay for and implement. And I couldn't find what I was looking for. So I just asked ChatGPT to give me 50 kind of customer segments on Klaviyo that would be beneficial for generating more revenue, and I asked it to give it a naming convention so like they were all kind of grouped in the way that I wanted, and the 50 that spat out were incredible. I was like, this is exactly what I was looking for. I cheekily said, these are great, can you give me another 50? And it just spat out another 50. But the thing is, when I'm reading them, it's like, oh, I could actually use that segment for this type of email because that's really good. It almost gives you the ideas based on the segments that are there. For example, like they were talking about, there were some cool ones in there that I hadn't even thought of. Like someone that's visited the homepage from multiple devices more than once. So if they've visited the homepage more than once on mobile and on desktop but haven't purchased, if they've come back 4 times across 2 different devices, they're probably a pretty warm lead. So you can kind of tailor that email marketing message to someone that hasn't just reached the site once and bounced, but they're like, you could create kind of an abandoned sequence based on super engaged people, which would be, a cool little segment. And these segments, when you're looking at email marketing, like 80% of the revenue is probably going to come from like the main 5 flows. But if you've got those main 5 flows set up and you're looking to add, that extra 20%, like these are the little segments that you want to go to. And obviously it's going to have a much bigger impact on brands doing, a couple of $100,000 a month, compared to brands doing, $10,000 a month. Like, it's not worth doing the super segments because they might bring in, if you create like 10 of them, each they might bring in like $50 a month if you're doing $10,000 a month. But these like micro segments, if you're doing, a couple of $100,000 a month, they could potentially bring in, 50,000 plus a month. So it's kind of amplified returns based on how much money the brand's doing at the time. And it's I hear a lot of email marketers talk about leverage. So basically, if they're working on a $10,000 client versus a $1 million a month client, like the process and the work's the same, but they get paid a lot more money for the brands that are doing $1 million a month because the service is more valuable to them.
Mm.
Because if you're bringing in a percent, like a lot of the time, email will typically bring in 20 to 40% of like bottom line revenue for an e-commerce business. But 20 to 40% of $10,000 a month is like $2,000 to $4,000. If it's $1 million, it's $200,000 to $400,000 a month. The leverage scale is so much different. And then, this is where e-commerce businesses look at, why is this service so expensive? You'll find service providers at different levels all the time. But yeah, the big players will pay the best at what they do. And the best want high leverage. Like, they want to be compensated for their skill set. So email marketing is a really good example because, for example, like Google Ads, if someone's spending $10,000 a month versus $1 million a month, like the workload's extremely different. Whereas in email, it's a little bit more, but I wouldn't. On the flow side, it's not much more different. On the campaign side, it's a little bit more work, definitely. But comparing that to, imagine if it was a Facebook campaign, for example, like spending $10,000 a month versus $200,000 a month on ads. The amount of creative that they go through for a $200,000 client is extremely different to what they'd go through for like a $10,000 a month client. So yeah, everyone has their own pricing strategies and formulas, but yeah, and for me, typically, I like to sit in the I don't want to be on the super high end because a lot of the time, it's just me. So I like to be in kind of that range of, the business is doing kind of 50,000 a month to like a million a month. Like, that's kind of my sweet spot for e-commerce. I like that. I like working in that range, and there's always good room for growth.
Yeah, no, it's quite similar to kind of where I sit when I would even sometimes look at, even with 50,000 a month. The only problem is the lower you get down, we know that often with e-commerce, their margins are quite slim. So there's always that reluctancy sometimes with budgets to be able to invest a certain amount into the marketing. But equally, if you want to go from 50 to 500 a month, then you need to invest in marketing, whether you're hiring someone or you're trying to do it yourself. So, it's a balancing act.
Yeah, definitely. I think e-commerce in February is a tough one because people are always comparing the results to January, and they forget that February has like 3 less days than January. If your e-commerce store is doing $100,000 a day, like if it's a big one, that's like $300,000 you've got to make up somewhere throughout the month for the 3 days that you're missing in February. I think for February, overall revenue typically drops because of the 3 less days. Because I'm finding at the moment, like month to month, my clients are pretty on par, but I know this month is going to finish 3 days earlier than last month.
There's also seasonal demand as well. Like depends what products you're selling. Some industries in February are going to be, it might naturally you just might get a drop off depending on what market you're in.
Yeah, like
Especially after, you've got Black Friday, Cyber Monday in November, December, Christmas sales, maybe New Year sales a little bit in January, but then
yeah.
there may be a natural drop off depending on what you're selling.
Yeah, definitely. And you can definitely look back on that throughout the years and like the kind of flow. If you've got a couple of years of data, you can definitely see those trends. What I don't like business owners doing is like trying to explain the market to me or the economy, or I was like, because a lot of the time, these kind of assumptions that they're making just aren't true. Like something won't be working, or an angle that they've explored is not working, and they justify it by explaining, oh, there's a downturn in the economy at the moment. I was like, no, it's nothing to do with the economy. Like you've got an impulse buy product, and your ads are crap. It's like it's so there's or they might be talking about the downturn, and their email marketing is one email, and then that's it. Like there's no follow up or anything. It was like no, your system isn't set up for this. Like you could still be growing. You're just putting all your energy in the wrong places. And even this week, I heard another one that's like, oh, the economy's slowing, and people are paying off their credit card debts from February, from Christmas in February. I'm thinking that might be true, but like, why? I don't understand why people try to constantly justify why things aren't going right, rather than thinking like what can they do to improve. Like that's the headspace they need to be in, not trying to justify or why things are dropping this month. It should be like, okay, it's slowing down a bit this month, what can we do to turn it around? And I think the businesses that do really well kind of have that headspace and that mindset around, like the ones that do really well, I've never heard them talk about the economy. It's always like, hey, what can we do to grow this? What do we need to do to improve on this? And I think, yeah, if you're talking about the economy and all that kind of stuff, I think like I had another client a couple of months ago that was talking about the economy slowing. I went to try to use their website, and every page that I landed on, I was getting an error. It was nothing to do with the economy. Their website was broken. Like that's what I mean. Like when you go into this, and if you're the business owner driving this business, your mindset's got to be, how do we grow this? Not what reasons can I justify? What can I use to justify why we've slowed down this month? Like it's not going to do you any. It's not going to do you any favors. You want to concentrate on what you can do to get past that stage. And don't get me wrong, there are some legitimate reasons why businesses can drop off at certain points, especially after like a massive sale. Like typically there might be a little bit of drop off from that, and that's completely justifiable. But when you've been talking about the economy for 2 years, I can tell you now there's nothing wrong with the economy. It's something wrong with your website, or something wrong with something that you're doing. If you've been whinging, if you've mentioned it to someone more than 3 times, it's not the economy.
Yeah. Yeah, and often they always say that the fastest growing businesses come out of a recession. So if a lot of businesses are thinking, oh, it's the economy, actually that's a prime opportunity for you to double down and try and focus on growth and just being in the right mindset and being willing to try new things. You might find that it may be a recession, but equally there's still an opportunity for growth if you're willing to, invest in the right areas and make sure that your marketing and your fulfillment and delivery are on point.
I think the price point too really dictates the economy. Like if you're selling products under $200, like it's not the economy. If you're selling like $50,000 pools, it might be the economy.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it's I think you can overcome any economy woes by like just looking at the price point of your product, and if people aren't buying, there's potentially something else going on there. So, yeah, I won't go too much into mindset today. We'll kind of let's chat. What have you been working on, Charles? Ecom world-wise this week. What's been happening?
Yeah, well, one point I wanted to mention actually, because I got an email, well, it would have been last night, but I read it this morning from one of my clients, and it kind of reminded me about, and I get it from time to time. Every so often with a client, I'll get an email which will say, why are we not ranking for X or Y keyword, this particular keyword? Or I can't see our store ranking on in the top positions for this keyword. And often 9 times out of 10, when I actually delve into the data, which is the most important thing, I'll find that either A, that keyword is not actually getting searched for, or B, it's not relevant to the page that they want to rank for. So I think there's sometimes e-commerce owners can get fixated on certain particular keywords when really it's making sure that they're ranking for the right type of keyword. And when I kind of explained that and kind of went through and showed him the data and what they were actually ranking for and why this keyword is better than this keyword, then it's clear. He understood that, okay, that makes sense. So we're targeting a high volume keyword that actually gets clicks to that particular collection page and is resulting in sales. There's a reason why we're selecting one keyword versus another. Yeah, I think it's important to understand what keywords you should be selecting. And that was just something that, I see every so often. It's just like, why are we not ranking for this keyword? Because one, maybe that no one's searching for that keyword, or two, it's not relevant to the page that you want to rank for. So yeah, it's just
I see the same thing in the paid ad space for Google, but it's a little bit different in terms of it's clients typing in their product and messaging me saying, Jimmy, I can't see my ad. I was like, it's 11 o'clock at night and you've got a $50 a day budget and it ran out like 3 hours ago. That's why you can't see your ad. It's, yeah, I mean, some clients think, oh, I'm spending a little bit of money on Google. Every time I search my product, it's going to show up in shopping. And unless you've got a decent size, if you've got a decent sized budget, yeah, like it will show up like a lot of the time. But if you're just starting out and you've got like a $50 to $100 a day budget, don't expect to be seeing your product featured number one in the shopping ads like straight away. Don't get me wrong, there's some brands that definitely can do that on lower budgets, but it depends on how competitive it is. There's a lot of different factors, and they're like, sometimes you'll get some emails like, oh, Jimmy, ads haven't been shown all day. I'll be like, oh, that's funny. The data's showing me you've had like 700 clicks today. So if your ads haven't been on, I don't know where they've been coming from.
yeah.
But yeah, it's like the clients that I haven't had one for a while because this is kind of when I was starting out and working with lower tier kind of e-commerce businesses. It's very rarely that I'll get a client now email me like searching their own ads and being like, oh, I can't see this, I can't see that. So actually, and a tip for if you do have someone running your Google ads and you're trying to search your own ads, Google actually have an ad transparency platform now. So you can actually go on there and see what ads you're running without having to search your ads or try to trigger them. So if you're worried that nothing's showing, go to that Google Transparency ad page, type in your brand name, and it'll kind of give you a little map of all the ads that you're actually running on a Google Ads account. Yeah, save yourself all the searches and trying to bring up your own ads and just do that.
Yeah, no, it's quite funny.
It's a good way to spy on your competitors too if you want to do that too and see what they're running as well.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. It sounds good. Yeah, I'm not aware of that platform. Yeah, but yeah, so I just kind of explained to him that actually the main keyword that we're optimizing around is ranking number one on Google. They've been driving consistent clicks and traffic from that keyword, and also they're ranking for 777 keywords as well. So it's like I said, I think it's just kind of explaining the thesis behind why we're selecting a particular keyword and why the other keyword that they searched in doesn't necessarily matter, because just because they're typing it in doesn't mean that other people are typing it in. So
Is there ever a conversation like, okay, let's try it? Well, this landing page that you're trying to rank for this keyword isn't relevant, so let's work on creating a new landing page with the keyword that you want to target and see what the results are. Because I know the keyword research tools, like they're great guidance tool, but even myself looking at like internal data, if I type in the keyword that heaps of people searching for on Search Console. If I put that in a keyword planner, it might show 10 results, like 10 searches a month in there, when I can see in Search Console that we're getting a couple of hundred searches a month for that particular keyword. So I think they're definitely a good base to make projections off, but they're definitely, well, from my experience, you'll be able to go into this a little bit more in depth, Charles, but from my experience, they're definitely not like 100% accurate.
No, totally agree. Totally agree. You're right. There are situations where, I've run some experiments in the past where I've ranked for keywords that if you look at some of these SEO tools, they'll say zero search volume. And actually, when you target them, you do get traffic and you get clicks. So yeah, I totally agree there. I think it's just prioritizing. The way that I like to optimize each page on any website, whether it's B2B or whether it's e-commerce, is you want to be focused on targeting one main primary keyword, ideally a keyword that has a high kind of transactional intent, i.e., they're most likely to equate to a sale, and two, has a high search volume. That's the sweet spot. That's really the perfect amount. So you'd rather be focusing on those than the ones that you can only, like I said, you can only somewhat be guided by these tools. But equally, you should still be using them to make your assessments on some level. If there is a benefit keyword, like in this example, the keyword that my client wanted to rank for, it said that there was zero searches, whereas the keyword that we've actually optimized for, that's driving clicks and we can look into Search Console to see, is getting 5,800 searches on average a month based on that data. So you're going to select that one over the other one. But you're 100% right. The tools are not, set in stone. They're not 100% accurate. And really, the only real data that I would be taking as gospel is really Google's own data.
Yeah, even the keyword planner and things like that, because that's typically what I'm using. Like I find them not like somewhat accurate, but yeah, more of a guide more than anything. But on keywords, actually, I don't know if you've done much research into this yet, Charles, but so we spoke earlier about how people are going to ChatGPT for kind of to learn things. If someone's going to ChatGPT and saying, "Hey, what's the best snowboarding shop near me in my area?" Like how are businesses able to start like optimizing their site to show up in like these AI recommendations? Is it a different process to Google, or is it quite similar, or
Yeah,
in
well,
that space?
that's the $1 million question. It's something that I'm currently kind of researching, and I will probably start executing for some of my clients. Obviously, I've been, for as long as I've been in business, I've been focused on Google search, but there's no doubt that's shifting. I actually had an interesting conversation with the guy the other week who's kind of in the SEO space, and he thinks that there's going to be a kind of resurgence in like spammy backlinks, like the volume of backlinks, because these kind of AI search engines, they're not, Google has had 16 plus years to refine their search engine and figure out what's spam and what's not, and build their trust signals up with whereas these AI agents, they don't necessarily have that perfectly refined system. So you're going to get, I think, SEOs, as we always do, that are going to be clever and try and manipulate these new search engines for at least for a few years, until they can figure out, okay, what are the main signals that we can trust to kind of pull this data through. I would say, honestly, like brand is a huge one. Like just having a strong brand and doing all the other forms of marketing to drive as much traffic and awareness to your brand is going to help you naturally rank on these AI search engines. But I've not really done enough testing and delved into it enough yet to give you a concrete answer. I'm hoping at some point in this year I'm going to be able to come back on and we can chat about, what you can do to actually start ranking on some of these key AI search engines.
I think
Or
that'll be the next
chatbots.
phase, especially like even myself, testing the service industry on these things. Like, hey, who's the best service provider for this service in AI and seeing what it spits out. I'm like, this is really interesting. And there's obviously people moving in that space already where it's they're showing up quite prominently. And I think once like the Google Hubs and the Alexas and the whatever Apple uses, I don't even know, what do they use for the voice things? What do they call them?
Siri, isn't it? Siri.
Is it
I've got
Siri, like
yeah, Siri.
the
Yeah,
little pods or
I
whatever?
barely
Yeah.
ever use it. I bet. Yeah, yeah.
I use the Google Hub like all the time. It'll probably kick off in a minute now that I've mentioned it, but yeah, it's going to get to a point where they're just going to be talking like that Johnny AI that we mentioned. It's going to be like having a conversation with those things eventually. And I think if an e-commerce store can get in, like if someone's saying, "Hey, what's the best skincare product out there at the moment?" If you're that skincare product that's getting recommended to like a whole bunch of like a big audience asking for it, then that can only increase sales in my eyes.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's true. But yeah, these, as marketers, we're kind of trying to figure this out in real time. But no doubt, it's the future. Will Google? I saw the other day. I think Google are building their own. I think it was Google. I can't remember what it's called now. But I saw a demo of a new kind of AI software that Google have released with, inbuilt with Gemini, where you could do particular tasks. So they're
Google is moving away from the website. Like every time I've used Google recently, I've only ever looked at the Gemini AI snippet at the top, and it's usually answered what I've asked it. I mean, if that's not a warning signal to people that have been only relying on organic traffic, especially for informational keywords. And when I say informational keywords, I mean when you're going to Google to ask it an information question. I'm not talking about when you're going to Google to, price comparison shopping for particular products. That's a different game. Yeah, if you're asking it something like, how many grams of collagen should I be taking a day? Like, it's going to tell you that in the AI snippet. Like, those supplement companies that have written articles around there, the traffic's going to be getting eaten up by those. Like, I've seen the data, and they're definitely still getting traffic for those queries, but a lot more of the queries now are around, like, at a product category level, rather than blogs kind of, informational searching. I guess the advantage of blogs, especially on AIs like Perplexity, is they reference the source. So a lot of the time people will read that in Perplexity and they'll mention the source and they'll be like, oh, I just want to read it from the source where they got it from. So Perplexity do a really good job of sourcing where they're actually delivering you this information from. Whether the others follow suit or not, I don't know.
Are you just seeing that in Perplexity, Jimmy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Yeah.
the others do it too, or if you've noticed it in Claude or
Claude,
ChatGPT,
no.
but
Claude, my understanding of Claude is it doesn't act like a search engine. It's more, Claude is really valuable for content brainstorming. Like you can use it like an assistant, and it's more interactive.
I just signed up to Claude tonight, so I haven't actually.
Really good.
I haven't tested it yet, but the course I'm taking with Mike Rhodes tomorrow, like he recommends Claude, so I'm just gonna start with there and test it out. I've been a heavy user of ChatGPT and probably Gemini. They're probably the main two. I've tested Perplexity a bit too. I actually like Perplexity.
Yeah, I've
But
used it a little bit as
in
well.
saying that, I like all of them because like every time I use one, just gives me the answer that I want. The only reason I have at the moment for preferring one over the other is how they format their answers or
Yeah.
how it looks from a formatted point of view, which is probably a horrible reason to be liking one over the other.
Yeah, I find, like, for example, I was building out a new offer and I was using Claude to brainstorm, and then I would basically take an existing offer and I'd input it in and say, could you craft it in the same style and format and language? And I find that the output is more what I'm looking for versus with ChatGPT, when you ask it for content, it can be a little bit robotic in the content. However, that may have evolved since I'm not using ChatGPT as much
Oh, it's
at
definitely
the moment.
improved over the last
Yeah,
2 months, even I'd say ChatGPT.
it's crazy.
But
Just
even when I asked Claude the same question that I asked ChatGPT this afternoon when I was doing some data analysis, I liked the way Claude structured it, and it
mm,
seemed to understand well, not understand, but it seemed to present better back to me what I was actually asking it. So yeah, they've all got their different nuances, but I think if you're just starting out, just start with the free version of ChatGPT, and then if you find uses for, especially if you're just asking it informational queries, like where I'm at the moment, like I'm wanting to start to test things that can analyze large sets of data, and at the moment I'm probably leaning towards Claude, but like I tried to feed like a few massive Excel sheets today, but they all required the paid version,
Yeah, the paid, yeah.
which I only have for ChatGPT at the moment.
I would recommend the paid version. I know it's obviously subscriptions start to add up over time, but the great thing about the paid version as well, just the simple things like you can basically subsect everything into projects. So you've got like
Is this
can
for
better
ChatGPT or Claude
no,
or something?
for Claude,
Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
for Claude. So you can
There's
better
some
organize
actually, I've
things.
seen some pop up. I forget the name of it. I think I saved it somewhere, but there's actually wrappers popping up where you can just use all of them within the one wrapper. So if you pay
Wow,
for this service, then you've got access to ChatGPT, Claude, like Perplexity, like all the different models within like one wrapper. So
it's wild, isn't it?
I forget the name of it though, so I'll have to. You can actually choose which model you want to use when you ask it the question. So, and it had a paid version, so you can use those higher end models too. But yeah, there's always going to be workarounds with it. But yeah, it's definitely interesting, and it's definitely moving at quite like the videos that they're popping out now of like influencers. Like, unless you know exactly what you're looking for, they look real. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
and it'll just be something in the background that looks slightly off when you're like, oh, that's AI. Like, but if you're just looking at the actual video itself, you never would have guessed. So, which is exciting in some regards because one, I'm a like designing like web design or email marketing design. Like, it's not my zone. So if there's an AI that can actually get to the level where um a human can do that, like I'd be jumping all over that.
Mm,
Especially in the email marketing space. I think if you grow a business and you've got some like a good designer that can leverage that too, all of a sudden you don't need three designers on your team anymore. You just need the one that's a good designer and can leverage the AI. I'm still a big believer in that if you have the skills, AI is going to enhance that. And if you're a beginner, it might get you, halfway towards being someone with the skills, if that makes sense.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I think yeah, the people that are really going to benefit are those that are good, good at their job, and it just further enhances and 10x what they're already doing. It's the ones that are just kind of they're just ignoring it and going to put their head in the sand and think that it's going to go away, and you're just not going to be able to operate at the same level of those that are actually using it.
When it's already replacing jobs, it's not going away. Like it's here now.
Yeah,
It's done. Where it goes in the future, who knows? But um, yeah, if you're not worried about your job from AI, then yeah, you probably should be. I mean, you only have to look at us, and like I've already decided not to get some employees, and we're like quite small scale in terms of the business world. Whereas you've just got rid of your assistant, Charles, and basically replaced them with AI, I guess, and or things that AI can do. And like I've held off on hiring because I've been able to do things like so much quicker lately. And yeah, I've been able to. I'm more not so much hiring, but like partnering with other people. I think, especially on like the email marketing stuff, I'm partnering with someone and it's been good because I've got someone constantly to bounce ideas off while we're building out this service, and it's actually made the service a lot better just having those discussions. So, but yeah, I mean, yeah, AI is going to change a lot, but I think like I haven't been able to talk to like my developer friends at kind of the level that I probably want to explain what needs to happen, but now I can have that full conversation with AI before I even chat to them, and then I know all the terminology that I need. I know exactly what to tell them, what I need done, and oh, it's so much better. I'm learning a lot too. It's like this is off topic from ecom, but yeah, I wonder what schooling looks like in the next 10 years.
oh, I think yeah, that's look. I think yeah, my personal opinion is the school system. an education system has been flawed probably for the last 10 to 15 years already. Now that we've got AI, I mean, I don't know.
I think like tutoring, I think that's done. If you're running a tutoring business at the moment, you're in trouble. If I can go online and ask this thing anything I want or show it what I've done and it explains to me what I've done wrong or right, like there's no need for a tutor. Like you've got one over your shoulder. So I think the tutoring business is in trouble.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even the curriculum in terms of what they
Yeah.
actually teach, that's a whole other rabbit hole. But yeah, I think that's, when I even look at back, like I did marketing and psychology as a degree. And when I think about what I was being taught about marketing back then, like it was even, they weren't even talking about digital marketing, let alone what's going to be happening now. And with AI, things are just evolving so much quicker. Yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
think
going to be an
like
interesting time.
yeah, like on what we studied, I have a bachelor degree in health science and was working as like a clinical myotherapist for a while. But in talking about that, like I've actually used ChatGPT recently for like that exact reason. I got my MRI report, I gave it to ChatGPT, and I was like, write me a rehab program based on the exact injury that I've done, and it did, and it's phenomenal. So and it kind of takes that constant thinking out of the equation. Like if someone's presenting with someone, you could say to ChatGPT, "Hey, someone's presenting with this, this, and this. What tests should I run to confirm it, or or to like negate it?" And it will spit out everything that you need straight away. It'll change. Yeah, I jokingly say to my wife all the time. She's like, "Oh, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, just chatting to my doctor." It's just ChatGPT.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I got some blood work done the other week, and yeah, I've been putting it into Claude and getting assessments and trying to figure out what does this marker mean? What, because you know what it's like. Sometimes you get some blood work done, and you've got no idea unless you're
Yeah,
speaking to a doctor after what each of these things mean.
yeah, and it can
And
literally
yes, I want
analyze
to
the whole
advise.
thing.
Yeah, and I'm certainly going to be consulting with you know, my own health practitioners. I'm not going to just take.
I'm done with that now.
Yeah, yeah, scrap it. Like making health decisions based on Claude and ChatGPT. But you're right. In a lot of cases, as long as it's not like life or death, Claude's like, yeah, just open yourself up. Take your heart out.
This is
Yeah,
how you do the surgery.
yeah.
But
It's pretty incredible.
I think on the e-com side as well, like coming into like the big things coming up is we spoke last time about Black Friday. I think if you're an Australian-based business, I think you should be planning now kind of your end of financial year sales for June. So it's what's that probably 4 months off being run, but at least like I hope you learnt the lesson from mine and Charles's last chats around how early we spoke about Black Friday and um, how early some of your competitors are starting to think about these and set up the campaigns that need to run over that time. I'm not sure if end of finance because I think the end of financial year is different in different countries. I know Australia end of financial year is June 30, so a lot of companies, try to sell as much as they can just before the end of the financial year. But yeah, it's a big one for Australia, definitely. But um, yeah, there's the Easter period coming up, so think about what your Easter campaign's going to look like. Yeah, what else? Big sales. Well, I've got to. I probably should bring up my content calendar because I've got all the big ones marked. But definitely Easter and end of financial year for Australia
I
for the
think
first
it's
half of this year.
one thing that I think it's important to do as well is actually, like you said, is map out all of these sales days
Mm.
depending on what country you're in. Like I said, America will be different to Australia. That's going to be different potentially to the UK. One thing that I like to do with my clients now is we'll build out dedicated landing pages that we can optimize for each of those specific sales days. When they're not live, keep the page indexed, but obviously just remove it from the main navigation. So that allows you to keep that page ticking along nicely and still potentially ranking for keywords
Yeah, I
So
agree.
when the time's right, you're going to have an upper hand against your competitors, and you already got that page on Google. So that's something that I like to plan out, is have a clear picture of when those date periods for each of the sales days or periods
I
are going to
think
be live.
something else that's helped for me recently and like kind of really kind of built this out after, building out the email marketing systems is one, like we have what you call a standard content calendar that just has all all the big sales on it throughout the whole year. So if you can, like you've got a 12-month view of what's coming. And then for email marketing, like the big brands, they're sending probably 3 to 4 campaigns a week. So you need them mapped out on a content calendar, what's coming out. Like, especially as the email marketing service provider, you don't want to be thinking every second day, oh, what angle do we need to build today to send out an email? Like, that all needs to be done like the month beforehand. So when that comes around, you know exactly what's going out. It's already scheduled. It's ready to go. And you're already planning the next month ahead. For those type of emails, larger sales, I'd probably say you should be kind of at least pinpointing like 3 of your biggest sales for the year. And they should be planned out extensively. Black Friday is obviously the biggest one across the world, but yeah, you should if you're not forward planning, like start doing it.
Yeah, you're leaving money on the table if you don't. That's
Yeah,
for
it's
sure.
just, and if you're finding in your business you're always scrambling last minute, like, oh, let's do an Easter sale, like, and it's 2 days out from Easter, like that just screams you don't have a content calendar. You don't have a plan, you don't know what's coming up. Your business will run a lot more efficiently if you can sort that part of it out.
No, I agree.
I think we're almost at the hour mark, Charles. I think another good chat, and we'll try bring Paul. I'm going to talk Paul into coming on. I'll see if I can get him on next week.
Twist his arm.
And even if the product isn't finished, I don't care. I just want to talk about the technology and what's possible. I know he's kind of the marketing guy. He's got a business partner that's more of the kind of the tech side of it. But yeah, we'll get him on anyway for a chat.
Yeah, and he's got some experience from running e-commerce
Oh
stores
yeah,
as well. So
he's run
yeah,
heaps of
so
his own e-commerce
yeah,
stores. I reckon at one stage he had like, I think he had like 30 stores that were doing like, a couple of $100 each. So he was playing like the micro game, and but yeah, I think he's done everything in between, including like trading and other projects, and he was doing like WordPress support, and so yeah, he's got a vast amount of experience in a lot of different things. So yeah, it'd be awesome to just have a chat with him. And but yeah, I'm excited after seeing that AI technology that he showed me for answering calls and that kind of thing. The thing was amazing. So
yeah,
yeah, we'll try to get him on for a chat, see how that goes.
good stuff.
All right, guys.
Yeah,
Thanks for tuning in again. And yeah, like I said, if you guys ever want to reach out, we're on Shopify Marketing Secrets on Facebook. And yeah, or just comment on the video below here on YouTube if you've got any questions. We'll check the comments too. Don't comment down there if you want to pitch me your thumbnail service. Oh my gosh, this
oh,
like, like every second video I can tell this person has not watched a single second. Like, oh, your content's so amazing. If you need someone to like do up your thumbnails, hit me up. Like, don't comment if that's you.
yeah. If he knows anything about our episodes, he knows that it's raw, unfiltered, and there's it's not professionally done. We just throw it up, unedited.
Saying that,
With that,
if anyone wants to send us through some thumbnails, feel free.
yeah. You never know.
All right, guys. We'll catch you next week. Thanks for tuning in.